Phil's in Chertsey. Phil, what have you got?
Good afternoon, James.
Yes.
I've got a lovely question for you. Well, I hope it's a lovely question.
I'm sure it is, Phil. You're a lovely man.
Thank you. I've been enjoying Wimbledon, as usual, this time of year.
Yes.
And it's very interesting to see the speed of the serve. But what I want to know is, where do they measure the speed of the serve? Is it as the ball leaves the racket head, as it crosses the net, or when it hits the floor, or when it lands on the other side, ready for the person to return the serve?
There needs to be two places, doesn't there? They need to measure how long it takes it to pass between points X and Y, like a speed camera on the motorway.
Exactly, but...
Where is it?
But exactly, where is it?
I like that. That's a lovely question. If we should have some Wimbledon music to play for Wimbledon-themed questions, shouldn't we, or something? Have we got any sound effects, Axel? Have you not got a thwot? Shall I do my own? No, I'll do my own. What was that, Phil? You want to know how the speed of a serve is measured at Wimbledon?
Where they measure the speed of the service at Wimbledon? That sounds about 3 miles an hour, James.
I'm doing my best, mate. It's not the BBC. I had to do that with my finger in my cheek. Ben's in Aldershot. Question or answer, Ben?
I got an answer, James.
Carry on, mate. Thanks for holding.
Now, I can't remember where I saw this, but I definitely saw it last week, that they measure the speed from the racket, because by the time it gets to the baseline on the other side, it's slowed down a lot because of the air resistance on the ball.
Yeah, but from where to where? From racket to net? Where do we know where?
Just as it comes off the racket immediately.
Hello, James.
Hello.
Tennis.
Yes, of course.
I think you're wrong, mate. I think they use radar in the same way as a police officer would use radar to catch a speeding motorist. And what that does is it measures the change in frequency of reflected radar, and it uses a Doppler effect. You know how a racing car or an ambulance, the pitch of the noise changes as it comes towards you?
Yeah.
It changes because the moving body squashes its own sound, so the frequency goes up. And a moving tennis ball or a moving car will squash the radar waves that it's reflecting back because it's moving towards them. And that's how the change in the frequency of the radar waves is what's picked up. So there's no need to have a fixed point A and a fixed point B.
So he was right then, the first caller.
I wasn't really listening, to be quite honest.
Yeah, he was.
I was listening to you.
That's very kind of you, but he was kind of right. I said you can't be right because you have to have a journey measured from A to B, but you're explaining to me that you don't need that.
Well, technically you do, but it can be a journey consisting of only 1 or 2 radar wavelengths, which is about maybe, 5 centimetres maximum.
Yeah, so you could get it in one bite, as it were.
Yes, exactly. And also, don't forget, when they don't serve from the same place each time, so you'd have to have sort of a very variable starting point and a variable ending point.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're going to share it with Matt. It was Matt. Matt rang in with that. I think it was Matt, wasn't it? So you have to share it with Matt. Good work. Good work. Poppy is in Reading, but we knew that already. Poppy, question or answer?
Question. Always a question, isn't it?
Always a question. Carry on.
Okay, so emotions are nothing more, well, not nothing more, it's important, but they're chemicals in our body, like reacting and stuff, like women's hormones, and makes you cry sometimes, and things like that. So my question is, can we control the chemicals in our body?
And you know what's really annoying? The answer is sort of, I think. I mean, you can control some of them, some of the time, but you can never be in complete control of your hormonal or chemical composition.
And what's your qualifications for that answer?
Well, now you put me in an embarrassing situation.
You got none, have you?
What? You don't need any. Everyone knows this. What are you giggling about? You think about it. I mean, drugs would be the most obvious way to explain it. You can take a drug to affect your chemical balance in your brain or elsewhere, and it wears off, and then you get a hangover.
Yeah.
So you can't affect it permanently. You can affect it some of the time. Why are you laughing at me? Everyone knows this is the answer. It's you that you should be laughing at yourself, not at me.
It's not a particularly good answer, though, is it?
That is sometimes the way knowledge works, madam.
Yeah, can I have someone else's knowledge?
No,
then?
you flipping can't. That is, I mean, what do you think? You think that someone's going to ring in and say, yeah, if you take this tablet, you'll feel fantastic every day for the rest of your life?
No, but somebody from some university somewhere might have a better answer.
Excuse me, I think you'll find I have a Bachelor of Science degree from the London School of Economics. Katie's in Sunbury. Question or answer, Katie?
It's an answer to the emotion question.
Yes.
Okay, as I understood the question,
well done.
There is some emotional, physiological things that we can't control. So that would be, for example, the fight or flight response.
Yes, of course. Adrenaline, boom.
Exactly, which you can't control. However, you can learn to adapt your cognitive reaction to those chemicals.
Yes.
So through things like CBT, anger management, stress management, mindfulness, all those kind of things, which can in turn lead to neurological changes in the brain.
Wowee.
So it's kind of like a big circle, if you see what I mean. So if you have a problem with anger management, for example, so you're not very good at controlling the fight response,
yes,
the adrenaline response, you can learn to control that, and then that in turn can have an impact on your adrenaline production.
Yeah, of course. Ollie's in Hyde Park. Ollie, what's your question?
Hi, James. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, mate. What have you got for me?
I think, it's two very small questions, but I think possibly the answer may be combined to the two. Firstly, what is it that causes the dropping or falling sensation that can sometimes wake us up in the middle of the night?
Well, hang on. Why are you doing two? You're only allowed one.
I know, but when I say the second one, you're probably going to say, oh, yeah, that could be the same. The answer could be the same to both.
Well, I don't like it when people predict what I'm going to do. It makes me very uncomfortable. Go on, Ollie.
I might be wrong, James.
Go on.
So, the second one, our internal alarm clock. So if our alarm doesn't go off, or for whatever reason...
No, it's not that.
Well, I think it's both middle
No, it's not that.
related.
Are you arguing with me?
I
can't ring in, ask a question, and then argue with the answer.
All right, well, let's go with the first one then. So there we go.
It's a throwback to when we slept in trees.
Yes.
No, it really is.
Okay.
You sound sceptical.
I do, yes.
Well, if you were sleeping in a tree, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Well, I know, but if we set our alarm clock at a different time...
What are you going on about alarm clocks for?
Oh, you mean the dropping sensation?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay, but I thought it was unproven as yet, and there was sort of various answers, but none...
Then why are you ringing in with it, then?
Because I was wanting to see if there was something conclusive now.
Well, there is. It's a throwback to when we slept in trees.
Okay. All right, well, there we go. We've answered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right,
No, it doesn't deserve that. I'm playing with him. Like a cat with a mouse. Like a dog with a fox. Let's see if we get an answer to all these questions. I think it's to do with lying in trees. Isn't it to do with falling out of trees when we slept in? Did we ever sleep in trees? I don't know. Katie, 12:41. Julian's in Thornton Heath. Julian, question or answer?
Answer, James.
Good
Lovely
man.
to talk to you.
Likewise.
By the way.
Likewise.
It's about the falling or tripping when you're falling asleep.
Oh, yes. What's that all about?
Well, I believe it's called a myoclastic jerk, Greek word.
Hey, steady on, mate, all right?
Yeah, it's myoclastic jerk.
All right, just wind your neck in, all right? Who you do? You what? You can't just come on my show. Start banding around names like that.
Well,
go on, try again.
Right, it's apparently it's the point when you're consciousness and unconsciousness. So you're just about to fall asleep.
Yeah.
And the unconscious part of the brain is sort of taking over, and it doesn't know. It's just checking whether you're dying or whether you're alive. So it will put a pulse through your body, and it makes your feet sort of jerk. And with me, it's not a case of falling. I in my sleep, I feel as if I'm just tripping up.
Yes, that's right. That's more like what I feel like.
Yeah,
it's not like a... It's a like...
Not at all. It's just like, just tripped up and I wake up, and then you fall back to sleep again.
What's it called then?
Myoclastic. And while I've been waiting, I've just been trying to work
well
out.
played. Sorry, carry on.
Myo might be like short.
Yeah.
And the clastic, it's like, in a volcanic eruption, you have pyroclastic, KLAS.
Yeah.
So it might be like a, I don't know, short
explosion.
Fire or something.
Explosion.
Yeah.
Burst.
Yeah,
burst.
Or pulse. Or,
oh, mate, this is first class. And I like the way you completely ignored my childish attempt to pretend you were calling me a myoclastic jerk.
Well, it's the nerves.
No, it wasn't the nerves. It was the mature. You say nerves, I say maturity.
Okay.
You were mature and I wasn't, mate. And I'm sorry, you made me feel like a right prune.
No. But,
do you know what you've made me feel like?
So many questions over the past. History is my topic usually.
Well, you've excelled yourself on myoclastic jerks today. In fact, you've made me feel like one.
Well, I have to work with some of them because I'm a carpenter by trade. But the answer to this, if you want to know it, where I got it from...
Yes, I do. I was coming
from,
to that.
Hugh Laurie on House.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really love that programme.
Yeah, I do
every
as well.
time I sort of learnt something from it every time, and it stuck in my mind, the answer to this, because I was wondering why does it happen, and then he came out, with his answer, and it just lodged in the brain to stay there until I needed it.
You, Julian, take this from me with gratitude.
Woohoo! Hello, James. Hi, I'm just calling from last week regarding the question of how the passport starts.
I love this question. Thank you. Often I ask people to sort of remember me and ring back, and they just sort of crack on with their normal lives and completely forget about me. I love you, Jay. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so basically how it started and, how it originated and which country did it
The first passport. We just want to know the story of the first passport.
Well, I mean, how did it start? I mean, then when it started evolving, when did the country say you can't come to our country without a visa?
Yeah,
and,
I love it. It's a great question. Absolutely great question. Peter's in Shepherd's Bush. Question or answer, Peter?
It's an answer, James.
Carry on.
It's about the passport.
The passports. Where did they come from? First passport.
I've been listening to some audio books, and I listened to one on antiquities, and I remember it being written. The first ones were recorded 450 BC.
450 BC?
Yeah, by a Persian king. And I think
was it Darius?
I didn't want to Google it. I said to your research. Fair play to you. It's the only Persian king I can sort of think of off the top of my head. Your researcher did mention the name. It was
what?
Antraxius. I don't know.
You were talking to a woman, weren't you? Not a man.
From the headphones I got on my phone, it sounded like a man. I just hope I haven't insulted one of your researchers.
There's no way the fella answering phones came out with an ancient Persian king.
Well, I'll tell you what, he must have had a quick Google on it.
Cheeky beggar. There's going to be trouble. There's going to be tears before bath time. I'll tell you that for nothing. So go on then. So 450 BC. What was it? What was the first passport?
It was basically a letter on a papyrus, I'd gather, because I'm going to follow it on then. And it was given so when people crossed the river, they had a letter from the king, and they were given good passage. And if they weren't, then the repercussions would have come from attacking one of the king's emissaries.
I like this.
And
how do you know that was the first recorded occasion of a kind of passport? Pass through a port, so the river works.
Well, no, because it follows on from that. That was the first recorded of documents to give safe passage from country to country.
Yeah.
And then on that, it got me interested after I heard your caller last week saying he'd ring up this week.
Oh, clever.
And I did look, and the first official passport, a little bit of a cheat here. But
no, it's not a cheat, actually. This is a loophole.
Right, thanks for the loophole.
No, because you can't Google stuff if it's live on the show. But Wayne in Basildon, I'm surprised he's not around yet. He will be in a minute when he hears Twitter Mystery Hour. He went out and bought a book called Brewer's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable just so that he could be a Mystery Hour bore. But because he knew that lots of questions would come up subsequently about the origins of phrases and words. Why do we say that? Why do we do that? So he read a whole book about it, and I can never get him off the phone on Thursdays. So you haven't broken any rules because you looked it up after last week's show, hoping it would come up again this week. That's fine, mate. Don't beat yourself up. That's absolutely fine.
And the first recorded passport, per se, was under King George.
Oh, yeah.
And they were written on gold tablets, apparently. Whether they were like gold English.
George who? Which George? King George? Which George? George the First?
George the Fifth, sorry.
George the Fifth. Really?
And they were so that British citizens could travel, and maybe the French as well.
Be courteous, because of course what you've just reminded me of, no one would have left the country, would they, until relatively recently?
No,
apart from soldiers.
So everyone would have recognised a king of England. So if you had a bit of his documentation, you knew that if you caused trouble with the traveller, be it the emissary or whoever,
yes,
that then there would be repercussions thereafter. And I think it states on today's passports that unimpeded free passage and protection under the Crown.
Her Britannic Majesty. Peter, you've done it. You've done it.
Don't give us a round of applause. I'll tell you what, give it to someone that deserves it later on that kind of gets near the mark.
No. I'm not having any of that. I'm not having any of that. You're taking this whether you want it or not.
Right, my question is, why, when criminals are arrested and you want to find out the truth, why are lie detectors not used on all criminals to find out whether they've done it or not? Wouldn't it make life simple?
Yeah, but they're not completely foolproof.
But still.
What do you mean, but still? They're not. That's the answer to the question. Why don't? I mean, they use lie detectors sometimes. Some jurisdictions use them. The technology improves all the time. One of my favourite callers historically used to operate a lie detector company, and they do use them in quite a lot of contexts. But it can never be conclusive evidence in a court of law.
Okay. Well, maybe you've answered the question then, because I just
What do you mean, maybe?
I just wanted to know if they used them or why didn't they, but you've answered the question. I told you I'm nervous. So.
Well, I don't sound very nervous. Picking holes in the show, getting all radical feminist on me, giving it all the where are all the women nonsense, and Poppy was waiting just to make you look like a prune on line 2.
I feel like a prune. Okay, so have you given me the answer then, or not?
No, I have. Yeah. Well, why don't they use lie detectors on criminals? I said they do sometimes, but it's never going to be conclusive enough to be evidence in a British court of law. I don't know about other countries, but the technology is not foolproof. You can fool them. I've got a lot of friends who work on the Jeremy Kyle show, and sometimes the lie detectors they use there aren't necessarily bang on the money as well.
Oh, so why? Okay, I always thought that they were like 100%. Conclusive. That's why I asked that question.
Did you really think they were 100% conclusive?
Yeah.
Beep, 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 beep. My lie detector says you never did. They're not reliable because they measure things like fluid on the skin or heart rate, and all of these things you can actually train yourself to control.
Okay.
You know, like, if you want to calm yourself down, you can. Whether you do deep breathing or whether you close your eyes and envision a nice, peaceful pastoral scene with a lovely fox hunt gambling over the hills. So there's things you can do to control your physiological and psychological reaction to stimuli, and that's all a lie detector is. It's trying to detect response to stimuli.
But wouldn't that take a lot of training?
Well, yes, but that's why it's not used in a court of law, because if it did, you'd train yourself, wouldn't you? The bigger the criminal, the more likely the trial. I'm going to give myself a round of applause, Andrew, and put us both out of your misery. Mark's in Putney. Mark, question or answer?
It's a question, please, James.
Carry on.
Obviously, your surname is O'Brien, and you have O'Brien, O'Malley, O'Neill. What's the O signify, and what are its origins?
Oh, I know this. It's it's son of. So it denotes clan membership. So I would have been originally, I think, a member of Brian Boru's clan. He was the last king of Ireland. So all the O'Briens were members of that clan.
So the O signifies the word of, obviously.
Son of, yeah, like Mac does as well, I think. Mac is son of as well, isn't it?
Well, okay.
And Fitz, I think Fitz is a good one. I think Fitz means illegitimate son of.
Ah, right, okay.
But I could have got that wrong.
Fitz, I'll have to have a pop at them.
You what?
I've got a couple of friends who are fit. So
I don't know if it still applies, but I know that because when your name has got an apostrophe in it, you ask when you're a kid what it means, and that's what my dad told me. I'm 99% sure it's true.
I was just saying, you haven't met my friends. It probably would apply to someone.
Just behave yourself.
You will recall that the police did in fact confiscate a flag in the belief that it was an ISIS flag, and it turned out to be a display of various sex acts. So
we have to tread carefully.
I hear what you're saying. So